Welcome to America Uncanceled. Yes, that's right. 6 days till Christmas. I can't believe it. But before we head out to the holiday break, we just saw parts 6 and 7 of the Twitter files. Something, I don't know what. I've been obsessed with this topic. They have been released, exposing the tight ties between the FBI and big tech. The files writer says the FBI acted as if it were a subsidiary for Twitter, noting that the FBI's contact with Twitter was, quote, constant and pervasive. We are also tracking some breaking news. As if this government overreach wasn't enough, the January 6th committee is set to send recommendations of criminal charges for President Donald J. Trump to the Department of Justice. Joining us today to discuss this and more, former acting attorney general, CPAC board member, and host of Liberty and Justice, which airs on Friday evenings, Matt Whitaker. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Mercy. Good to be with you.
Well, I know that we should be taking it a little easy, but apparently no one's taking it easy here in Washington. We just saw the breaking news with the January 6th committee, where they're alleging that the violations of 4 criminal statutes by President Trump. This includes conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress, conspiracy to make a false statement, and aiding an insurrection. What happens next?
I fully expect that the Department of Justice will ignore this referral. It is well on their way with the special counsel, Jack Smith, and his investigation already looking into the issues surrounding January 6th as they relate to Donald Trump. Honest, the Department of Justice has actually rejected at least that fourth concept, this insurrection idea. Nobody has been charged with insurrection, and in fact, if you look very carefully at how they've treated the over 800 people that they've already prosecuted in connection with January 6th, most of them, their allegations really said you were going to do this anyway, and you're just using Donald Trump as a pretext. And so I don't think any fair-minded person can look at this and believe that these crimes were actually committed. We know this is a partisan committee that's only stocked with either never Trumpers or Trump haters, including Liz Cheney and Adam Kitzinger. So I don't think this goes anywhere. I think the Department of Justice, like I said, has already considered all of the facts surrounding January 6th, and if they're going to do anything, they're going to do something on their own.
So let me ask you, though, because obviously these are the last-ditch efforts by the January 6th committee before we see the Republican majority in the House of Representatives, them taking over in January. Were you shocked by what they claimed and basically decided on these criminal allegations against President Trump?
No, I'm never shocked by anything Congress does, because obviously instead of addressing the issues facing ordinary American families and workers, they go and do these kind of things. So this doesn't surprise me. What it does surprise me is how uninterested the American people are in this committee. I mean, it was determined, I think, a while ago by ordinary Americans that this committee was completely partisan. And I don't think anybody's paying attention or cares what they ultimately do. And you know what? This referral is also going to be rescinded, revoked, or otherwise pulled back on January 3rd, to your point, when Republicans take control of the House. So it's much ado about nothing.
So as a Department of Justice, there was this FBI raid. They're obviously looking into anything dealing with President Trump. Where do you think they end up? Will we see an indictment of President Trump? I mean, is that the ultimate goal of this very biased and politicized Department of Justice? I think that's a tough call, because having sat in that chair that Merrick Garland sits in, I kind of know how those decisions are made. Certainly, I think, and I've been very critical of the execution of the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago in the first place. Right. But at the same time, I would be really surprised if the Department of Justice ultimately goes after Donald Trump and indicts him, because a simple fact is I have not seen any evidence, and I don't think there is any evidence, that creates an indictable offense as it relates to the classified information. And if they're going to change the standard for prosecution just because they're desperate to go after Donald Trump, that is not going to
be good for this republic and ultimately could be more destabilizing than anything.
So what about the Department of Justice when it comes to dealing with the Hunter Biden case? I know that's something that's really has, I thought, been very slow moving, despite, more recent revelations of what we've seen coming out of that Hunter Biden laptop and the fact that there could be this connection with Joe Biden and in terms of these foreign dealings.
It's a great point, Mercy. You know what? I think a lot of people are surprised how slow the Hunter Biden cases has moved. We've seen evidence with our own eyes as, our citizens of crimes being committed. And so it's really disappointing the Department of Justice hasn't been willing to pursue that case. But at the same time, it's one of the reasons they haven't appointed a special counsel. Merrick Garland clearly wants to control the timing and the scope of anything coming out of that investigation. And so he has maintained complete operational control of that investigation. And I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day. Yeah. I think it's going to be one of those things. At some point in time, we're going to start seeing statutes of limitation run, and so bringing those charges. And I think that's what I'm starting to worry about now. I think it's the time has come to put that case to bed, charge it, or tell the American people why you're not willing to charge it.
Interestingly enough, now I don't know about you, Matt, but I have been so just obsessed with the Twitter files. This whole situation, I shouldn't say obsessed, that sounds kind of crazy. But what I'm trying to say is that just reading through what's happening, what Elon Musk and his team, they've been able to unravel, giving it to some of these reporters. I think what's been fascinating to watch is that you have ex-FBI individuals who are working for Twitter, and then you have FBI just really, I think, dominating and telling Twitter what to do, who to censor, who to suspend. I mean, talk about collusion. I think there's this ultimate collusion between the deep state and the FBI and Twitter. When you're looking at this, I mean, obviously you dealt with the FBI day in and day out. Is this shocking?
Yeah, there's a lot of surprising things, and I have been very interested, to your point, in these revelations. I thought it was smart how Elon and Twitter has given and empowered these independent reporters that are willing to do their work without sort of fear or favor as it relates to big media. Right. What I'm really concerned about, Mercy, it's not just the FBI, and it wasn't just the FBI that had a big task force. You had DHS, you had states that were actually recommending people to be canceled or taken off of social media, and we just know what's on Twitter. There are bigger platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, that I can only imagine what those conversations were like as well. Well,
I got to ask you, because one of the things I found was that was reported was the fact that you had the FBI basically go after these low follower accounts belonging to ordinary Americans like Billy Baldwin, for crying out loud. I tweeted this out. Why was the FBI targeting Americans like Billy Baldwin? Seems strange and illogical. I don't quite understand. I mean, look, I remember being at the White House and we would have these discussions about ensuring that there wouldn't be foreign influence into our elections. But this looks almost like they went to an extreme when it came to this issue.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing that some of these accounts that were taken down, or these tweets that were censored, right, ultimately is they were jokes.
Yes.
I mean, they were humor. They were. And they were poor attempts at humor. I give you that, but I mean, I feel like they really were trying to justify their existence by sort of just taking away some very basic, speech rights. And that's what this boils down to is the federal government through the FBI and others, sort of censoring or taking down Americans' right to speech. We're allowed to, make humor, to joke about, the Democrats vote on Wednesday. That's everyone knows that that's not true. Right. And so therefore, I just, I wonder really ultimately, what was really at play.
But let me ask you this, because then of course there's this whole conversation about Hunter Biden, where these decisions made of censoring the New York Post, where none of us on the campaign could even talk about Hunter Biden. It became one of these that even the reporters would tell us on the Trump campaign, this is not an issue. There's not enough evidence. Obviously, there was this collusion happening where even the Biden administration was dictating the terms, it seems, with big tech, particularly with Twitter. Could there be a broader investigation here into that? I mean, in terms of the fact that there was, I go back to this word collusion, but that's what it sounds like to me when I'm reading this information.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt, Mercy, that this is the real problem. And that is that the federal government was working hand in glove with big media, with the social media platforms to take down really not fake news. It was just news that wasn't favorable to their preferred candidate. Right. And that, that's obviously so against our founding fathers and our constitutional rights and privileges that, I don't understand why there isn't more outrage. I mean, free speech is the fundamental and basic tenet. I've heard it's been said many times, but it's the First Amendment for a reason, and that is that the protection of speech protects most, if not all, of our other rights. I do
want to shift gears here to Title 42. Obviously, we're seeing this deadline approaching of December 20th, where they're not going to use Title 42 anymore, as I would say, as one of the reasons to stop the flow of illegal immigration. You're seeing these images. I mean, it is just something I don't think we've seen in a very long time, of just thousands and thousands of people coming through the border. And there was a Harvard poll that I just read today saying that a vast majority of Americans they only believe there's only maybe less than 1 million people coming across the border illegally, when you're talking about the fact that it's close to 2.5 million people crossing the border illegally. What is this? Where do we end up when it comes to this border crisis, as we know it's only getting worse and worse under the Biden administration?
Yeah, the Biden administration got rid of most of the tools that we had in place in the Trump administration to secure our border. And, Title 42 is really the last tool that they had and they could use to keep people out of our country. We are seeing an abuse of the asylum system. We're seeing so many other frauds and crimes, and it is beyond a point where the border is broken. And we're the most generous country in the world, Mercy. I mean, we allow over 1 million people a year into our country legally with permanent status. And I just think we need a system that works on behalf of the American people, that brings the best and the brightest from around the world, so that they can, share in the American dream, which is unique to the United States of America. And Joe Biden has completely, really in 2 years, broken the entire, not only immigration system, but the border protection. And that's a national security issue. And you're seeing with fentanyl, with terrorists, with all of the things that are coming through the southern border. And, that's all at the feet of Joe Biden. And at some point in time, the American people are going to wake up. They're not going to be able to ignore what's happening. In fact, the mainstream media is finally covering it as we speak, because they can't ignore it any longer.
So as we wrap up the year 2022, I think what do you believe, what do you expect to see as we enter into 2023 from a political standpoint, in terms of the Republicans taking the majority here in the House of Representatives? What do you foresee happening next year as we move into 2023?
Well, obviously getting the speakership settled and having, that behind us is going to be important for Republicans. I think ultimately the House is going to have to prove that they can function as a governing body with divided government, and the Senate in Democrat hands. It's going to be very important that the big issues are addressed somehow by the statesmen and stateswomen that are in the Congress, and ultimately I think it all points to 2024, and just it's going to be another election about the direction of our country. And we have to, as conservatives, make sure we win hearts and minds and convince people that our worldview and our way of life is better than what Democrats are doing.
I got to tell you, I think one of the biggest, I don't want to say criticisms, but people had talked to me about where they felt they couldn't get it when it came to the midterm elections. They were like, how can the Republicans not win on messaging? You're talking about inflation being at an all-time high. People are really feeling, the stress, the financial stress of having to pay for their bills, yet really couldn't make the progress we needed for Republicans to win the Senate, and even for Republicans to have even a bigger majority in the House. So I do think that there's a lot of questions to be brought up. I'm hoping that the Republicans can address this issue of election integrity and really get ourselves in a place where we're competitive in a lot of these states. I mean, you were traveling just like we were. I think we kept missing each other between Arizona, Nevada, and all these places. What did you learn when you were on the ground? What can Republicans do better as we enter into the next election season?
Well, I think there's some tactical things we need to do better, like absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots. I think there's also some just strategic things we could do better, like who we're targeting and making sure that we're going after independent votes. So we understand that we got to turn out our base, but we can't just throw red meat at the base and expect the independents to show up. So that's, I think those are the two things that I would focus on.
No, I think that's great advice. Well, Merry Christmas, Matt Whitaker. What are you going to be doing this Christmas?
All right, Merry Christmas to you.
What are you going to be doing this Christmas?
We're just relaxing, enjoying family, and just really, unfortunately, eating too many treats. But just thankful for all the blessings that God's given me and my family, and just the people that are part of my life, including you and Matt and the whole CPAC family. So
well, we feel the same way. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you.
Right. Merry Christmas and happy birthday.
Thank you. I know it's the next week. Get ready. Take care. Thank you.
See you soon, Mercy.
And thank you all for watching. Remember, we have expanded to the podcast world, and you can listen to America Uncanceled with Matt and Mercedes Schlapp wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you next time. Merry Christmas and God bless.